Hello there. I just thought I'd throw together a bit of a mini presentation here just to go over the VLE platform options for our CIMA Mres course. What is the platform? It's where we house the actual Mres course, so where are we going to sit it? Where are students going to be able to access it? So the number of options to consider. I have researched this for the last few weeks and discussed with peers in other institutions, etc., and had advice from them of the pros and cons. These are the four most viable options. A, we house it on course sites, which I'll look into in a moment for you, by Blackboard. B, it's housed in Sheffield. C, Newcastle. D, Liverpool. So looking at option A, course sites. This means we're housing the course in a standalone VLE, which is what I think a number of you might have been interested in, rather than it being housed in one institution. Moodle was considered as a possibility. Moodle is another system like Blackboard, but this required the setup of a server to run it on, which needs managing, and it also means time and training for staff. I'd need some time to be able to get my head around the nuances of Moodle, and also then pass that on to staff as well. So that all takes time. Blackboard have a similar thing called course sites, but this appears to be a better option because it's run on the cloud, so it's run on the internet and doesn't require server administration and maintenance. So, course sites, it's free as well. It's a free VLE by Blackboard, which is the same system as all three universities use. You all use Blackboard as a system behind your VLEs. Ours in Sheffield is known as Mol2, but it's still run on Blackboard. So, pros for using course sites. It is one central place. It's not owned by either institution. No single institution logo, so no branding on there. So it makes it more of a collaborative course feel. Familiar design and tools. So for staff who have used their VLE, they will be familiar with the tools available and the layout. And for students who've accessed any courses on their in their institution before, they will also be more familiar. Students can be invited via email, and they can use their own university email as their local email there. Students can also request access to the course as well, so either way it can work that way. And it also means less issues with access, with logins in other universities, other institutions, getting guest access, getting guest emails, all that kind of thing that can often cause hiccups at the start of a course. It is run in the cloud, so supposedly no downtime. Not guaranteed, but it's supposed to be quite good. So we do have options though of backups and other alternatives should it go down for some reason. It is free, and you can have multiple instructors. You can import and export to and from all three universities, so we can export some content from Newcastle, for instance, and pop that into the course, and alternatively we can export from the course sites into Sheffield's Mol2, for instance, and have that as a backup, etc. So that's really handy. Also, it means that if in the future, if we went with this and then in the future we decided to host it in just one university, then we could easily copy it over and export it over. There is something called single sign-in as well via Facebook, LinkedIn or Google, and a couple of others. So that's really handy as well. Students can just click on, say, log me in via Facebook, and it will just pick up their login details that way. So that might be quite attractive for students. Cons, of course, to using course sites, we're on our own, so it's unlikely we'll have support initially, at least, from our institutional help desk. It's maybe something we could discuss and try to come to some kind of agreement with, but initially it'll probably be myself supporting technically, which I'm fine with. Maybe we should rope somebody else in from each institution, not sure. Again, we can discuss that. It does not come with Turnitin as a building block. I know in Sheffield we've got Turnitin built in to Mol2, to our VLE, which means staff can instantly create a Turnitin assignment, and students can access their Turnitin assignment from within Mol2, from within the VLE. That's not available at the moment on course sites, but in that case, if you wanted to use Turnitin, we'd add an external link and students could access it that way. As this is free and run by Blackboard, they could decide to pull the plug. It's always a possibility. It's very, very unlikely. They've got thousands of courses on there, hundreds and thousands of institutions are enrolled in courses, so it's very unlikely, but it is always a possibility. And again, that's another reason to make sure we've got regular backups. And again, we could always talk with Blackboard about this kind of thing. Right, before I move on to option B, and Sheffield hosting, I'm going to show you a little mock-up I've done of a course in Blackboard course sites. So this is what's known as the kind of home page. This is where students could we could give them this website, which is cima.coursesites.com, and they could log in via here. I've just done a bit of a mock-up here, so it's looking a bit rubbish at the moment, but obviously I'll tidy that up later on. But it means that there's a little bit of a web home page in a way. Right, let me go out of this. If I wanted to log in, I just go to coursesites.com and can log in from there, and it takes me directly to this module homepage, which I should imagine you're familiar with your own VLEs. Yours should look something similar to this with these module boxes here. To access the course, you can see I've got CIMA Mres 1314 there, so I'm just going to click on that. Right, so there we go. I've got the edit mode on at the moment, and you can see I've copied Alison Newcastle's version of the home page by just putting these modules in the home page, and there's my logo at the top. Edit mode's on at the moment, so if I turn edit mode off to see the student view, it's a little bit slow. It's not being slow. I think that's my computer, so do forgive me. There we go. There's the student view again. I'll put my edit mode back on again. I've put a home page, getting started link in the left hand side, information. If I click on module 1, I'll keep talking while it loads. You can see I've put a couple of dummy test items there, just an item and a learning module there as Newcastle use. So if I just click on test 2, the learning module, there you go. You can see my table of contents there. And you can also see that I've put a couple of items in there and a video. That video, by the way, I did on the fly. There's a tool in here, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but there's a tool inside, I think it's in the item in the content editor, in the text editor, where you can actually record straight away if you've got your webcam set up, record it, and it will upload it immediately to YouTube and then embed it directly without you having to mess around at all. It'll embed it directly in that item, so that's really handy. There are a few extra bits in this I was surprised to find actually in course sites that we don't have or have to pay extra for in our VLE, such as it's got Blackboard Collaborate, which is the online virtual classroom. The one we've got is quite basic, but Collaborate is a lot more it's got a lot more features basically, and it's a lot more useful, and they've got that. It's under course tools, or you can do it from here into tools. I believe it's in more tools. There it is. It's called Course Sites Live, and that's got a lot more features really as a virtual classroom. It's really useful. You can share your desktop, you can show slides, students can ask questions via text or voice, whichever, etc. So that's really a handy one. The only downside I've noticed is I don't think the record function is working, but we can get around that. So there are a few extra functions basically, but pretty much it's exactly the same as you're used to using already in your VLE. So I'll just minimize that, and we'll go back to my slides. Option B then, Sheffield hosting, just to quickly go through the options with the universities. The pros to hosting in Sheffield would be that A, it's housed on the Sheffield servers, so we've got that backup. KICS, the Sheffield Computing Department here, they would offer backup and support systems. For example, Multi Help Desk is in place. Myself, I'm based at Sheffield, a learning technologist. It is on Blackboard, so familiarity, and we do have it integrated Turnitin. There is an automatic rollover of courses each year, and we could rotate as well. Another option would be to rotate to a different university as the host each year. So that's that as an option. The cons there for your housing at Sheffield would be students from other universities would also need a guest student account with email and login to access the VLE. That can always cause trouble, and it can be a bit messy and a bit of a faff. Staff need temporary staff accounts and logins with Sheffield University also, the staff from Newcastle and Liverpool. It would have the multi logos, etc., so the look and feel would be a bit Sheffieldy. And and we may have a different version of the VLE, a different upgrade version to the other two institutions. There's also issues with access and accounts could be present each year, which I think most of you have probably experienced in your own institutions, that there can be hiccups every year with students being able to actually access, etc. So next options, options C and D, Newcastle or Liverpool. Apologies for lumping you together, but pretty much the pros and cons are the same as Sheffield, with the differences being for Newcastle that the course has already run successfully at Newcastle, so they've got the edge with that, and familiarity with that, and the knowledge with how that's run and worked. And a con would be that the learning technologist is actually based in Sheffield, but we can get around that. I can just work much more closely with Newcastle. Liverpool, same as Sheffield with the pros and cons, but the differences being that the course is already run in Newcastle, so they have the edge there maybe, and the learning technologist is in Sheffield, so maybe there's an edge there. And also, I think there was an issue about charges for guest access brought up in Liverpool. I'm not sure, but maybe we need to discuss that a little further. Right, option E was the invisible option, because this didn't really come across as viable. At first look, having 3 versions in each VLE, so Newcastle have their own version, Sheffield their own, Liverpool their own, it might sound nice. It means a copy of all work in each VLE, and students end up having only one login, so they enrol at Newcastle, they log in at Newcastle. Liverpool the same. And no access issues for students, but there are cons. And they're quite big cons. It could be an administration nightmare, duplication of all work. We'd have to make sure that every single piece of work is copied over into each course. Staff would need access to all 3 VLEs, and it would also mean that staff would be working simultaneously on all 3 VLEs, which could get confusing, and there could be issues and things missed out. And one big con as well, we would lose the student collaboration aspect. One of the advantages of this kind of cross-institutional course is that students would be able to collaborate with each other in different institutions. We would lose that aspect because it would be like they were working on their own standalone university's course. So we'd miss out on that. And if you only had a couple of students in each institution as well, then it would be but it would be a bit lonely out there. So there are some major cons there. So which platform? In my opinion, I'd recommend course sites at this stage. I've put here the benefits outweigh the negatives. They do seem to. The course CIMA would have its own definitive teaching space. The students can collaborate together as one group. They'll have one login, so no fuss with enrolments and access, etc. They can use their own university email. Staff already should be familiar with the platform, and staff will only have one place to visit and mark work, etc. And it has some nice extra features. So that's it. Over to you now, really. I just thought I'd put this together so you didn't take all the time of the actual Skype meeting we've got on Thursday, and it'll give you time to maybe consider some things and come back to me with some thoughts there. But they're my opinions and my research that I've done so far, and I have checked with other universities and peers in other institutions, etc. And we've gone over things. So that's what I'm thinking so far. Obviously, it's not done and dusted, but now we need to have the discussion. So thanks for listening.